but we are continuing our new policy here where it's Jen and men with beards. In fact,
You are
I
not
think
welcome on this program if you are a man without a beard. Jen, the people are growing beards all over America, so
I
they can
hope
join
so.
us.
I hope so. That's the name of a new show, Norm, Men with Beards. And people can come on if they don't have a real one,
It's
like
a,
a
s-
phony one.
Oh yeah, you can
it's a,
draw
s-
one
it's
on.
it's a sequel, or you could put on like hang it over
Yeah.
your ears.
A lot of
We'll
options.
sell Jen. Let's put it in the merch shop.
Yeah.
Contrarian beards. It's like Ben. It's like Men in Black, men with beards. We zap authoritarianism.
Exactly.
That's absolutely
Or
right.
Men in Blazers is what I was thinking of since I'm a soccer fan. So Men in Beards.
Trump, notably, no beard. I think
Yeah,
that says it all. That's the situation here. Yeah.
I
exactly.
knew I distrusted him from the get-go.
Well, there's so many leaders now who have beards look at Zelensky, beard.
Yes. The
The
great national champion of holding autocrats to account, Lula beard in
Lula beard.
Brazil.
Jimmy Kimmel, all note, beard wearer. The
Beard.
guy has a beard.
Oh my gosh, I think we have a theme, Norm. I think we've just written your publisher's note. Well, people will think
The
you've gone
beard.
insane. Beards. They're defiant. In the 19th century, it's very interesting when you look at the presidents. There are all those bearded presidents, and then suddenly beards went out of fashion, and they were all clean shaven. We need to bring back beards. Chris Murphy may have the inside edge because he has a beard. So there you go, another one. You can just see it now. It used to be that politicians would lose weight before running. Now they're going to start growing beards. So we have found a beard wearer. Yes,
We will accept goatees.
Okay.
And even the stray mustache.
Okay. And I'll, 5:00 shadow, a couple days without shaving.
I'm starting to see people coming on Zooms with me, like partially unshaven. They're trying to catch up.
So Vance is trying to get in on this. And as in so many things, he sort of, is trying to hustle himself into the room. But frankly, if you're going to, attack the Constitution, you don't get the honor of wearing a beard. So I think we have to call on him to remove the costume.
Friends, in case you think you've accidentally stumbled into the Contrarians' personal grooming channel, no, we're over 1,000. Take it away, Jen.
Oh, I want to talk about beards, but we're not going to talk about beards. We're going to talk about the First Amendment. Of course, we have Norm, and we have the wonderful Ben Wikler, who is a organizing genius, and the first person I thought of to help us through this time. We, of course, have had Trump declare war on the left and has designated Antifa, which is frankly this kind of amorphous group. It's sort of like Q. It's undefined, and therefore it will be applied to everyone, designating it as some kind of terrorist group. And then we saw the FCC essentially go after, not essentially, they did go after Jimmy Kimmel. They bullied ABC, which has capitulated once to Trump in a $15 million bogus settlement to take him off the air. Then put on your organizing hat. What are all the things various aspects of the pro-democracy movement can be doing in this moment?
So the way to think about this is that this is an assault on free speech, on the First Amendment, on our Constitution, and it's an opportunity to dramatically expand the circle of the coalition that is pushing back. We've already seen Tucker Carlson go on his show and decry what Pam Bondi said. What we need in this moment is for a much larger, wider chorus of people to denounce this attack. And I think specifically, Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC, who used the might of the government, economic threats worth billions of dollars, to force ABC to push out a critic of the president, Brendan Carr needs to be fired or needs to resign immediately. This needs to become a disaster for the Trump administration that they are responding to. And Brendan Carr is not somebody who has, legions of national followers and supporters. He's somebody who used to post all the time about how he supported free speech and how, it was so terrible that anyone would attack free speech. So this is the moment for anyone who is a publisher, anyone who's a podcaster, anyone who's a media institution, any kind of company that, that has any dealing with public communication, to call for him to be fired immediately and for Congress to haul him in for hearings. And if you are a member of the general public, this is an opportunity to call your local TV station and ask them to put out a statement, to write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper, anything that relies on free speech, including on the right. And this is something that pretty much is a binding together for the kind of 95% of the country across the political spectrum that believes that we should have freedom of speech in this country. Everyone can agree on this. And even people who are not yet ready to go after Trump directly can go after Carr. And Carr, we all know Carr is acting with the full support of Donald Trump, who does not care one whit about free speech. It is all about cudgeling his enemies and supporting his friends. But this is something where you can imagine everyone from Bannon to Noam Chomsky all saying that this is a frontal assault on the thing that makes America great. So it is time to go. And that means contacting everybody else who has a voice in your universe, in your life. It's not enough to not watch ABC out of protest, because that doesn't show up in any material way. You should be calling on your members of Congress to call on Carr to resign immediately, to call him in front for hearings. You should be calling your television stations, your cable providers, any network, any streaming service that carries ABC should be putting out a statement decrying this. And there needs to be an economic penalty. So I'll just land on this. And this is something where unions, where investors, where anyone who manages any kind of pension fund can all say, we can't actually keep our money in ABC, in Disney, in Nexstar, if they're going to immediately cower to the whims of this administration. They're not protecting shareholder value, and we're going to pull our investments. There needs to be a bigger economic penalty for caving to authoritarianism than there is to submitting to it. And that's something that all of us can help make happen.
Absolutely. I would also call on our union friends. Most jobs that have to do with the production of motion pictures and television programs are represented by a guild or a union. There was a wonderful statement that was put out by the WGA last night. Other unions and guilds can do the same. If you're a Disney employee, you have leverage as well. This is an opportunity, as Ben said, to galvanize the public. It's a very simple message. One, First Amendment. It's there first for a reason. Norm, it's also relevant in the legal arena. Talk to us about some of the lawsuits that can help bring this to the fore. We've talked about how that helps the public awareness.
Yeah, Brendan Carr is such an important pivot point in that landscape and the legal response. Start with looking at the week. It opened with the Washington Post firing Karen Attiah for telling the truth. That's what journalists do, for telling the truth, condemning political violence. That's what she's known for. She got a Polk Award for the killing of her writer who she edited, Jamal Khashoggi, for decrying political violence. Nobody's supporting political violence, Jen, but we need to be honest by the same token about who Charlie Kirk was. And we need to be honest about the epidemic of political violence in our country. I wrote for the Contrarian yesterday with the brilliant Tom Jocelyn a summary of the evidence, and that's all Karen was talking about, the landscape of evidence that violence is predominantly a right-wing phenomenon when it comes to the political variety in our country. Then we got, connect the dots, then you got government figures like Brendan Carr, Todd Blanche, and Pam Bondi, both criminalizing lawful constitutionally protected speech. Pam Bondi says, the Constitution doesn't apply to hate speech. Baloney! The Constitution is there to apply to all of our speech. It doesn't apply to violent action. We agree on that. That's not what she said. Todd Blanche called it a RICO conspiracy, Jen, when peaceful protesters dared to protest Trump in a restaurant. That's the proudest American. That's not a crime. And then you have Jimmy Kimmel, and that's important. Another government thumb on the scale. Brendan Carr, using the power of his office to influence suppression of speech of a comedian. And to your question, all of that is legally actionable.
Absolutely.
So I think you are going to see this battle play out. You and Ben are so right. Lawsuits alone won't save us, but we won't be saved without them. We need to also see court action to complement the kind of public pressure, mass mobilization, political turnout that will save our democracy.
Absolutely. And I want to stress, I know our Republican slash MAGA opponents refuse to understand this, but there is a historical analogy. I am not calling MAGA Nazis. I am, however, drawing on the clearest historical analogy, and that is the Reichstag fire. That was a fire that was set on the German parliament and was then used as a pretext for extending totalitarian rule. That is what we are seeing here. No one is saying MAGA killed Charlie Kirk. No one is saying MAGA is a Nazi organization. What we're saying is that this is from the Republican slash autocratic playbook, that they will use an event as a pretext, and that's all it is, a pretext for then clamping down on First Amendment rights. Someone there said, what about bar associations? Yes, bar complaints should be raised against Ted Blanche, against Pam Bondi. They are an absolute disgrace. They don't know the first thing about the First Amendment. And by the way, Congress does have an oversight role. And Norm, I was pleased to see that when stirred, even Republicans can get into the act. We saw a couple women from the CDC the other day go up there, and they were talking about preserving science. And they seem to be making some headway with some of the Republicans up there.
Yeah, the CDC hearing was yesterday. Dr. Susan Menares, Dr. Deb Howry, the leaders of the CDC who resigned in protest, and most of the Republicans, not all, but most of the Republicans on the panel and all the Democrats decrying the cost of Donald Trump's corruption. We'll talk about for years the epidemics that are being unleashed by Trump's handpicked Bobby Kennedy Jr. destroying DHS, destroying CDC, and measles and other epidemics. Today, they're going to change. They're considering changing the vaccine schedules. Yesterday, the testimony was there's no scientific basis to do it. And when you combine that with the fact that to give billions to billionaires, they are breaking the health insurance costs for Americans. That's what Democrats are fighting for. We'll talk about it with the shutdown. They don't want your premium to go up by $14,000. Tens of millions of Americans losing health care. Damn straight, unless Trump deals with that, the votes, Democrats should not vote to take health care away. That's what the Republicans are asking for, Jen. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
See how we have revved up Norm. He didn't behave this way before. He's very loyally, very careful.
I had no beard.
Yes, it's the beard. Beard inspires. Ben, one of the things I am noticing is how Democratic governors are rising to the occasion. It's almost like each one is taking an area of attack. We have Gavin Newsom fighting back on redistricting, rigging the 2026 elections. We have the wonderful J.B. Pritzker, who is fighting back on militarization of our cities and the indiscriminate use of ICE. And the other day we had Governor Shapiro, Josh Shapiro, himself a victim of a firebombing on Passover, speak out about the First Amendment. Talk to us a little bit about how effective these governors can be and the platform that they can use in kind of attacking Trump in this way.
Governors are so vital. And it's just to preview, this is part of why 2026 is so important. We talk a lot about the House, and it is absolutely essential. But governors are the front line in the fight for democracy because we have a federal system here in the United States of America. So that means governors are not accountable to Donald Trump. They don't need his signature on their bills. They have a relationship where, they negotiate over things, but they are elected directly by voters, and they run a piece of the government, the fourth branch of government. It's the judiciary, the executive, the legislative, and then there's the states, which are in a sense, sovereign states across the country. So what you're seeing with these fightbacks, it is this big public fight right now. It is also dozens of lawsuits. I'm in Wisconsin. Governor Evers has sued Donald Trump over and over and over, been part of lawsuits that have won, that have restored university funding, that have unfrozen grants, that have done critical things, that have curbed some of the worst damage. We would be in a depression right now if Trump had been able to shut down the trillions of dollars in signed contracts the federal government tried to prevent payment of if it weren't for those lawsuits. The litigators, the courts, the judges, but fundamentally, it's states that have fought back and governors that have led the way. And there's an opportunity for Democrats to win governorships in Wisconsin, to elect Governor Evers as successor, in Nevada in 2026, to win in state after state where currently you have Republican governors. And if we do that, that is the way to ensure that we have a peaceful transfer of power after the 2028 election. Because whatever Trump tries to do to get around the Constitution, ultimately, it is states that hold the elections that choose the next president of the United States. So this is their voice, their executive power, their legal power, and their defense of the right of people in states to have their wishes represented by a governor that's accountable to them. This is the salvation for American democracy.
Absolutely. Two quick points. One, we saw yesterday that the federal government is suing Oregon and Maine to get the unredacted voter files, something that they are not entitled to. And this is exactly what Ben is talking about. States run elections, and Trump is trying to federalize it, trying to use that information for purposes it should not be used. And moreover, I think, to frankly rig the election that's coming forward. I would also say we have two governor races that are going on as we speak. In fact, I believe the Virginia early voting starts perhaps this week, next week. And you can vote for Democratic governors who respect the rule of law, the First Amendment, who are going to fight for healthcare, who are going to oppose Donald Trump. Really important. And the margin of those elections is very important. Norm, you look very animated. And by the way, someone says you're scaring their puppy.
I woke up their dog. I woke up their dog.
Yeah.
I'm just responding to some of the people who have such great ideas on this concept of we won't give you the Democrats, we won't give you our vote to take healthcare away from 14 million Americans. It's as simple as that. I just wanted to say that the governors and other state officials, including those fantastic AGs, Jen, they have been fighting, and they show a model of the fighting spirit. And now, having our members of Congress, we called for this earlier in the year. Don't give your votes up. Can I say it? To kill Americans? Don't give your votes to take health care away. That is a life and death matter for more than 10 million Americans. I've heard numbers 14, 16, 18 million Americans. If the Republicans are willing to sit down and provide reasonable coverage for Americans, and of course, Democrats will provide. If not, don't give your votes up to take healthcare away from all of us.
Absolutely. Ben, you do sense that the public is always a little bit ahead of the politicians. And that's, I think, the way it should be in a democracy, because the people are in charge. As you see this building trend of public outrage, of public demonstrations, the big ones, the small ones, the ones in blue cities, the ones out in rural America, what do you see, again, putting on your organizing hat, on the power and the momentum that the opposition is forming right now?
It is volcanic. the amount of energy that's being unleashed by this attempt to kind of rip the country into pieces, it's hard to overstate. And I think our politics and our discourse are way behind where the public is. You can see in the polling that the fury, from about a government that's trying to rule through fear, is growing and growing and growing. You can see it in the special election results. Democrats keep wildly overperforming by far more than they did in 2017, which is the last kind of lead up to a blue wave. You can see that in the protests in the streets, vastly more than we ever saw. And the same moment in the first Trump administration, No Kings protest coming up October 18th. No Kings 2. This last one had more than 2,000, I think it was like 2,400 or 2,300 protests across the country. That is dramatically more than anything that we saw in the first Trump administration. This next one could be even bigger. And the tent is growing. We have a moment where a lot of people voted for Trump for a lot of different reasons. But I think a lot of people are seeing that he's crossing red lines. And that means that we can build a mega movement that fundamentally believes that we should be a democracy, that we should be a country that actually protects people's basic freedoms, which is what is essentially at stake here, and allows everyone to have a shot economically, is not constantly handing out multi-billion-dollar gifts to the ultra-wealthy in order to personally enrich Donald Trump at the expense of everyone else. Trump promised a kind of implicit, I'll take away your freedom, but I'll give you money. But he's actually taking your money as well as taking away your freedom. He's making the economy worse for almost everyone. And if you're not part of the Forbes 400 that gained $1.2 trillion in this last year, then I'm sorry, Trump's economy is not working for you. So I think we have a chance to win landslides in New Jersey, in Virginia. Remember, they elected a Republican governor in 2021, 4 years ago. In Pennsylvania, in the Supreme Court race, which is an essential battle, because that Supreme Court will be making decisions that affect the next presidential election and much, much more. In special elections and state legislative, special races all across the country, and all of that gears up for 2026 when it is all on the line. It is critical to combine the public outcry and activation and mobilization and autocracy, defense, and prevention with the electoral work that has to happen. And that is, I think, the essential work that's underway. We just got to accelerate and accelerate and accelerate.
Absolutely. Norm, we always end on a hopeful note, and there are so many things now to look forward to as we mount on the largest, most broad-based opposition to autocracy this country has ever seen. What are you looking forward to?
Well, I am looking forward to the continued growth of our independent media movement, Jen. When you and I stepped away from mainstream media, where we still maintain good relationships and we sometimes appear to start our own thing, it was the beginning of the independent media year. And so many superstars have followed us into this medium. And one thing I can tell you about the Contrarians, friends, we are owned by nobody. We will not be bought. We will not be silenced. We will not be broken. We will keep fighting peacefully, lawfully, and vigorously, and we will win.
Absolutely. Ben, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to the 18th, to No Kings 2, and to the lead up to it. There's the online map. You can go and see where there are protests already planned. You can sign up and build your own if you're in a place where there is none. It's spreading like wildfire across the country. And I think it is so critical for us to remind each other that we will not be cowed, that we're not going to be bullied into silence, that we're going to respond by getting even louder, peacefully, civilly, and unstoppably mobilizing across the country to build the kind of mega coalition that can defend democracy and, frankly, ultimately launch the next great era in American life a few years from now, once this administration's out of power. That's the kind of movement we need. That's the kind of movement people are building. And in this moment of just staggering darkness, it gives me extraordinary hope.
Absolutely. And I am hopeful because the autocrats usually overreach, and that, in fact, gives us even more strength. I am looking forward to two things. First of all, I am looking forward, actually, to Missouri beating back an unconstitutional attempt to rig not only federal elections, but their own electoral system. Republicans there not only want to redistrict and eliminate one of only 2 Democratic seats held, by the way, by an African American, illegally because their state only allows once a decade redistricting. They also want to change the referendum system because in Missouri, they keep passing referendum that are progressive and that are pro-democracy. So they want to change it so that if a single district votes 50.0001%, you can nix a ballot initiative. No, that should go down to defeat, and I think it will because Missourians know that democracy is on the line. And the other thing that I am looking forward to is buying more merch. Ben, you got to get your merch from the Contrarian. We got hats. We actually don't have hats. I'm sorry. We will bring hats. We have mugs. We have T-shirts. We have tote bags. And we are thinking up all kinds of ideas for next time. Beards, perhaps. We have an unlimited appetite for
beard grooming. We're going to have a
grooming.
Contrarian beard grooming kit.
And then you can put the grooming kit with your mug and your T-shirt in your tote. So it really
It's
all
a
wraps together. It's kind of cute.
complete morning. A complete
Exactly.
morning kit.
Exactly. So we are looking forward to all of that. Thank you, Contrarians. You make this possible. Thank you. And if you aren't already, please become a paid subscriber. And everyone, go to the merch store. Get your T-shirt. Speak out. First Amendment time, guys. Let's be heard. Talk to you all soon. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.